All right, so Deuteronomy chapter 9. Moses is still speaking. Again, he's about 120 years old. He'll be dead before the end of the month. So this is his final opportunity to give instructions. He has been barred from going into the land because he disobeyed God, which was within the last year, where he was told to speak to a rock, and he popped off and made it about himself, and basically told the people who were so ornery about not having water that, must we fetch you water from the rock, you rebels? And then he hit the rock twice. So, in Deuteronomy chapter 9, it says, "Hear, O Israel, thou art to pass over Jordan this day." All right, is this literally they going over today? No, but it is very near at hand, all right? Way closer than they've been in this whole journey. So that's just right there. It'll be within about 60 days from where they're at, because after he dies, they're going to stay there and mourn him for 30 days, and then in the beginning of the new year, they'll actually go in. So you're going to pass over Jordan, that river that's the line of demarcation there, this day to go in to possess nations greater and mightier than thyself, and cities great and fenced up to heaven, and a people great and tall, the children of the Anakims, whom thou knowest, and of whom thou hast heard say, who can stand before the children of Anak? All right. You're going in with your eyes wide open. These nations, there's 7 of them in there, they're stronger than you are from a natural sense. There's more of them than you are. You're an invading force, and they have a defensive position with walled cities and guard, and they're not puny cities. I mean, they're big. They got good walls, and described as fenced up to heaven. Got a little hyperbole there, but we get the idea. This is not going to be an easy thing from a human standpoint. And oh yeah, the inhabitants are huge. They've already beaten one king whose bed was twice the length of a standard king. Big dude, right? And so people great and tall, the children of the Anakims. The Anakims, that word literally translates to long necks. So like giraffes. They're tall. It's kind of a mocking name, but they were also scary. That's why thou hast heard, who can stand before the children of Anak? That means these guys are hard to fight. Again, all of this is from a human's might's perspective. And he's not telling them anything new, because this is the same thing that the spies reported 38 years ago, and their parents chickened out. So he is bringing it fresh to their mind. This is what you're going to be up against. So how do you proceed? Verse 3. Understand, therefore, this day. All right? That's the bad news. Here's the good news. Understand, therefore, this day, that the Lord thy God is he which goeth over before thee. All right, so to go over before means he's going in front. You're not going alone. You look at your military might, you're going to lose. But that's not who's winning the day. The Lord your God, the eternal God, Jehovah, he's going in front of you. As a consuming fire, he shall destroy them, and he shall bring them down before thy face. All right, so if you've got a house and a little flame takes hold of it, it's not long before that thing is just wrapped up, engulfed in flames, and it's consumed. And what happens to the walls? They fall in, right? That's the word picture of God coming in before them like a fire and consuming these foes. Even though they're big and they're bad and they're scary and there's more of them, he's on your side. He's doing the work. He shall bring them down before thy face, so shalt thou drive them out. This is how you drive them out. He's telling you to do this, and he's telling you how it's going to be done. He's doing the work. So shalt thou drive them out, and destroy them quickly, as the Lord hath said unto thee. Now it talks about quickly. If you had to go lay siege to a bunch of individual walled cities, that's going to take a lot of time, right? Siege is basically starving them out, unless you can get some siege engines to break down the gates or get over the walls or dig under. I mean, there's time and energy, and we're talking tons of cities, like 100 plus. The way it works out is the Lord arranges it for all these guys to come out of their cities and fight them together. Different nations, there's a southern campaign and a northern campaign, where they all just come out and kind of present themselves to get their tails whooped. And then it's just mop up. So you're going to basically empty cities where it's not the warriors there present. And so God is arranging them to come before their face so they can be destroyed. Right? This is not a traditional military campaign in any respect. This one's supernatural. Right? And so if you're looking at it from just natural standpoint, yeah, it makes sense to be afraid. But you're not. You're not alone. God's going before you. He's going to drive them out. This is how you're going to drive them out and destroy them quickly, as the Lord hath said unto thee. Now, we're going to reframe something because Moses knows, and God knows that y'all are going to get the wrong impression about why these folks are being kicked out and why you're getting this land. So verse 4 says, Speak not in thine heart after that the Lord thy God hath cast them out from before thee, saying, all right, so your timing is after they've been whooped. Moses is saying, don't say this in your heart. And so you get a quote there. For my righteousness the Lord hath brought me in to possess this land. All right? Don't get the big head that it's because you were so righteous that God gave you this land. And he's going to spend the rest of the chapter telling them, that ain't so. But specifically, it's for the wickedness of these nations that the Lord just drive them out from before thee. So it's not because Israel, you are so good, but it was in judgment against them because they were so evil and wicked. I mean, this is what had been told to Abraham 400-something years ago, that your seed is going to conquer these people, but not yet. The iniquity of their, the time of the Amorites' iniquity was not yet ripe. He was allowing them go to a certain extent, and then it was going to be time, and so that time has come. So for the wickedness that was going on in that land, that's why the Lord's driving them out. And in case you missed it, he's going to repeat it. Not for thy righteousness or for the uprightness of thine heart dost thou go to possess their land. So it's not because you are upright, just, not because you are doing things that are straight and equitable and obedient to God. It's actually kind of in spite of you. But for the wickedness of these nations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee, and that he may perform the word which the Lord sware unto thy fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God gave specific promises. He made a covenant with Abraham. He reinforced it with Isaac. He reinforced it specifically with Jacob, that their seed was going to have a land. So 2 reasons. He is fulfilling judgment against wickedness, and he's fulfilling a covenant with someone else, but it wasn't for the righteousness inherently among this group of people that is getting this great benefit. All right? We're going to see a mirror of that in just a minute. Understand, therefore, that the Lord thy God giveth thee not this good land to possess it for thy righteousness. Is that the 3rd time? Yeah. Are we a little slow on the uptake? Yeah, so are they. Right? Human nature. We want to think good of ourselves. It's not because you were good. And then he's going to lay it to him straight. For thou art a stiff-necked people. You are as ornery as a stubborn, stiff-necked mule. All right? Brother Parrish, if your tractor decides it's not going to turn, you going to keep using that tractor?
I would like not.
After that row, you're going to have to do something else, right? You got to turn around. Well, when you're using animals to plow with, and if you're trying to tell them what to go and they just get their neck stiff and they go their own way and they're not being directed by their master, that's the imagery here of you are a stubborn old mule who's not doing what he's supposed to do, right? That's the imagery of a stiff-necked people. This is not positive, right? This is quite disparaging, but it's very accurate. Well, I probably could be called stubborn too. But it's not a character trait that we should be admirable of. All right? Persistence is one thing, but that's when you're trying to strive good. Stubborn is when you're repeatedly doing the wrong thing. All right? So, remember and forget not how thou provokest the Lord thy God to wrath in the wilderness. All right? How long we been on this camping trip, guys? Well, including the time we started, about almost 40 whole years. We're just, something 45 days shy, something like that. It's been a long camping trip. And you have provoked him from the day we did depart out of the land of Egypt, even until you came in this place. All right, you ever had kids whining during the car trip? You there yet? I want a snack. Just laying it on thick. I mean, it's like from the moment you pull out until 8 hours later when you get ready, they've just been complaining the whole time. He's like, that's what you've been doing for 4 decades. All right? It's not because you're righteous you're being brought in. You're stiff-necked. You're stubborn. Yeah.
How many days after they left Egypt did Moses go up
to Mount Sinai? So they arrived at Mount Sinai, I believe it was in the 3rd month, but it doesn't give us a precise day. So you're somewhere between 60 and 70 days out of Egypt. All right, so from the time you departed out of the land of Egypt until you got to this place, you have been rebellious against the Lord. Over and over and over and over again. And in case y'all have forgotten how rebellious, he's going to spend the rest of the chapter reminding them of the specific occurrences. All right. So in addition to the big picture rebellion, also in Horeb, ye provoked the Lord to wrath. What is another name for Horeb? Sinai. So we're talking about Mount Sinai, Mount Horeb. We're talking the same thing, same event. Ye provoked the Lord to wrath, so that the Lord was angry with you to have destroyed you. So there's being rebellious, and then being so rebellious that the Lord threatened to wipe out you as a nation altogether and start over. All right? That gives you your scale of how bad you have messed up at this point. And so he's going to recount what happened. When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone. So remember our timing. Everyone had gathered around the base of the mountains. God instructed them. They heard the audible voice of God. Right? We looked a few chapters ago at the 10 Commandments that he spoke. God spoke those out loud. The people heard them. They saw the fire coming down, thunder, smoke, trumpets. Absolutely terrifying scene. Our God is a consuming fire. Here he is speaking out of the fire. And they go to Moses. They said, we can't take it anymore. You go talk to him. He talks to you, you talk to us, we'll do what he says. But if we hear any more, we're going to die. And so that's when he goes back up into the mountain, and he's gone for more than a month. He's up there for 40 days. And so we find out here what he was doing up there. When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, that's, there's going to be stone tablets that God's going to present the tablets, God's going to write on it, he's going to give it to Moses, the law in stone. All right. I went up to receive the tablets, even the tables of the covenant, which the Lord made with you. Then I abode in the mount 40 days and 40 nights. I neither did eat bread nor drink water. All right. Does that have a mirror to anything in the New Testament? Yeah. The duration of how long Jesus fasted before he was tempted by Satan at his absolute weakest moment as far as his humanness. So he was 40 days, 40 nights without bread or drink. Kind of reminds me of our last chapter I think we looked at about man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God. What was happening to Moses? He was listening to the word of God. I mean, he was talking to him, and so he was sustaining him. All right. And the Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone. So you've just fast forwarded through that 40-day period. All right. You're not even hungry, but 40 days was a long time for him to be up there. The Lord delivered unto me 2 tables of stone, written with the finger of God, and on them was written according to all the words which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. So the exact thing that you heard the audible voice say, that was what was written down, all right, on the 2 tables of stone. It came to pass at the end of the 40 days and the 40 nights, the Lord gave me the 2 tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant. And then the Lord said unto him, Arise, get thee down quickly from hence, for thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They are quickly turned aside out of the way which I commanded them. They have made them a molten image. So, back up, rest of the backstory. The people there, if you're reading the account in Exodus, they tell Aaron, we don't know what happened to that Moses guy. He's been gone a long time. And he had. He'd been gone over a month. And yeah, He's telling Moses, those people that you brought out of Egypt.
No, you're good at my perspective.
It's a little bit of a charged statement, isn't it there? Moses, who was, he was not perfect by any stretch. He'd already, committed murder. So the people, they go to Aaron and they say, let's make some gods to go before us, right? The idea is we've been puttering around here camping for over a month. The guy who brought us out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him. We haven't heard anything. Let's go make us some gods. Apparently this is a God-based travel trip, so we need a god, so let's go. And so Aaron told them to break off their earrings, and then he carved a golden cow. And then they were having a feast, a party, and they were doing whatever, including dancing around naked. It was just debauchery going on, and that's when the Lord's telling Moses, get down there, you got to go, they have departed from the way. And how, serious was it? Because, they had heard the audible voice of God. What was the very first thing he told them? Right, I'm the Lord thy God that brought you out. So if he brought you out and you're trying to pray someone else to lead you on, right, have no other gods before me, make no graven images, right? It wasn't that long ago. And so after he had said that, after the people, they'd heard the voice. I know I'm going out of order a little bit. After they'd heard the voice and they said, Moses, you go talk to him. Moses goes up. And one of the things that God speaks to Moses, and he says, oh, that there were such a heart in them that they would fear me, and they would keep my commandments always, that it might be well with them. This was from Deuteronomy 5:29, with them forever. And so God knew they were going to disobey, and it was going to be right quick. And so he tells Moses, I've seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. So when Moses called them a stiff-necked people before, he's not disparaging them. That's not him coming up with terms. He's quoting God. Is it true? Absolutely. I've seen them. They are a stiff-necked people. Let me alone, that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make thee a nation, make of thee, Moses, a nation mightier and greater than they. All right? And so this let me alone thing here is, if Moses doesn't intercede, and that's what he's going to be doing as a type for Christ, of interceding to the Father against wrath. If he doesn't intercede, what God says, that I can wipe them out and I can start completely over. I'll kill the whole nation and we'll start back over the same way we did with Abraham when we had one, and from you, Moses. And so that's how severe this stiff-necked people is that God is threatening to wipe them out. So what does Moses do? He says, so I turned and came down from the mount, and the mountain burned with fire. So they're doing this stuff, and the mountain's on fire. I don't know if it had been on fire the whole time because he went up into a cloud, so I don't know what they could see in the inner time. But at that point, as he's coming down, fire is again visible on the mountain, at least then. And the two tables of the covenant were in my two hands. And I looked, and behold, just like God said, you had sinned against the Lord your God, and had made you a molten calf, and ye had turned aside quickly out of the way which the Lord had commanded you. God had set a path. You said, yeah, we'll do that. And then less than, 60 days later, you've departed from it, and not just a little bit. You're way, opposite direction. I took the two tables, cast them out of my two hands, and break them before your eyes. This was not an accidental dropping. He was slamming them down. They have broken God's law. From the very beginning, he's been given it, and 40 days later, he comes down, and they have already broken it. They did not keep it. It's not because they were righteous that they're getting this land. From the very first moment they heard about the covenant, very quickly thereafter, they have already breached it. So what does Moses have to do? I fell down before the Lord, as at the first. So this is a second time he goes back up into the mount. 40 days and 40 nights I did neither eat bread nor drink water, because of all your sins which ye sinned in doing wickedly in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure, wherewith the Lord was wroth against you to destroy you. But the Lord hearkened unto me at that time also. And so you have Moses here operating in this intercessory role, interceding on their behalf, pleading with God not to destroy them. And he does it. Now, he hasn't had anything to eat in 40 days. He's got double duty now. This is 80 days. And not only that, they were itching to go 40 days ago. The clock just started over. We're going to have another 40 days before he's going to come down with the rest of the instructions on building the ark and the tabernacle and everything they're supposed to do. So not only was the Lord ready to wipe out that whole nation, but he heard Moses' pleas to not. He was also ready to kill Aaron. Right? Aaron didn't know he was the high priest yet. He knew that God had chosen him to be a speaker for Moses, that Moses had been sent to lead them out. He had claimed that he was not an eloquent speaker and didn't speak good. And he says, well, God says, I know your brother Aaron does. I'll be speaking to you, you'll be speaking to him, and he'll be speaking to the people. And so that's the role Aaron has been operating in. But as far as the role of being a high priest, that instruction hadn't been given yet. And so God's ready to kill this priest, or what he would name as the priest. The Lord was angry with Aaron to destroy him, and rightfully so. He was, not only did he make it, do you remember what he told Moses when he came down? I don't know where it came from. I mean, we threw some gold in the fire and out came a calf. I mean, I've heard some dog ate my homework, sorry excuses, but that one's pretty bad. I mean, the golden cow just magically appeared. I mean, So, I prayed for Aaron also the same time. All right, so he's interceding for that high priest. So you wonder why the Levitical Aaronic high priest isn't sufficient. From the very beginning, they disobeyed. They sinned, all right? Need a better high priest. And I took your sin, what's that? The calf which he made. First I burned it with fire and stamped it and ground it very small, even as small as the dust, and I cast the dust thereof into the brook that descended out of the mount. All right, you're camped beside a mount, and you're going to be there through the rest of that year and into the 2 or 3 months into the second year. You got about 11 months you're going to be camped at that. And you are now going to be drinking the gold dust of your idolatry. I can't imagine that felt good. He took it upstream, and so it came down to them. The point is that they were having to consume the product of their sin, right? Think about the difference in this picture of this tainted water, tainted by sin from the beginning, versus the living water that Christ delivers, right? There's no taint, that there's perfect, never thirst again. I mean, you got just that corruption. Kind of we talked about the aqueduct illustration about there's nothing wrong with the law, but what flows through it is corrupt. Well, here, even the water that they were drinking was corrupted by the sin of that idolatry from the very beginning. So that's a big one, of that you have been rebellious to the Lord. I mean, from the moment you got the law, basically. But that wasn't it. And he only mentions them in shorthand in verse 22, at Taberah, at Massah, and at Kibroth Hattaavah. All right, so what happened at Taberah? That's found in Numbers 11 and in verse 1. It's a very short account. We don't really know much about it. But they were complaining, right? Stubborn, rebellious people. Numbers 11:1. When the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled. All right, our Lord's a consuming fire. His anger was kindled. And fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he, Moses, called the name of that place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. So if we look up that word Taberah, I'd be willing to bet it has something to do with incineration. Look that up real quick for you. Numbers 11. Taberah. Burning. Makes sense. All right. So that was one event. The second one that was mentioned was Massah, right? Check that. Yeah, Massah. So that goes back to before they ever got to Sinai. They'd crossed the Red Sea. They're traveling in the wilderness. They had come across some water. It was bitter water. They complained. That was made better. And then they came to another spot where there was no water at all. And that's when they're complaining. And they start really popping off with some charged statements like, is the Lord even among us? Like, if he was among us, he'd be giving us water. Like, what's up with this? Like, just really laying it on thick. And so that is, let's see, I think that was back in Exodus 17. I'll go glance at that real quick, because we haven't made it to Sinai yet. Yeah. Exodus 17. Yeah, they're chiding with the people, tempting the Lord. They thirsted, and they accused Moses. This is 17:3. Wherefore is it that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us, and our children and our cattle with thirst? Moses, you are one sick jerk. You made us walk all this way so we can die of dehydration. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, what shall I do unto this people? They all must be ready to stone me. Right? Is the temperature hot amongst this crowd? Right? You got this mob thing going on. That's when the Lord told Moses, go before them. There's going to be a rock there. It's going to be a rock of flint. All right? And they're going to strike it. So he told to strike it then. And out of it will flow water. And he called the name of that place Massah and Meribah, because the children of the Lord tempted the Lord, saying, is the Lord among us or not? So that Massah has the idea of tempting the Lord. So you've got complaining, you've got tempting, and then Kibroth Hatava, that in Hebrew translates to the graves of the lusters. Right? So there's nothing there. It's not like there's a town, but if you've ever had somebody who got sick on a car trip, yeah, remember that place where so-and-so threw up? Like that just became that place, that side of the road. That we remember that, right? You're associated with the event. That's what this is. The Kibroth Hatava is the graves of the lusters. They were so upset about having to eat manna, this miraculously delivered light bread that they could have at the doorstep every day, 6 days a week, and they miss the melons and the leeks and the garlics, and they're complaining about the food, and they want some meats. Who's going to put the meats on the table? Where's the meat? And so God said, all right, Moses, you tell them I'm going to feed them meat, but not for a day, not for a week, but for a whole month, until literally, this is God's words, it comes out their nose. All right? And so he sent a flock of quail, and the quail was so big, right, that from the center of the camp, and camp's large, right, 600,000 men, wives, children, cattle, large landmass just to camp, a day's journey in all directions, 3 cubits deep, right? That would be like taller than Elizabeth, full of birds, as far as you can go. So if you put that camp in the middle of Atlanta, it would cover all of 285. All right? Like 3 feet deep. I think it's 2 cubits, so 3 feet deep. That's a lot of birds. Now, but the kicker is these folks who are lusting and popping off at the Lord, he also sent a plague. And like 24,000 people died. And that was where they had to bury them, because those who were lusting after those worldly things, he sent a plague and killed a great deal of them. Hence the name, the graves of the lusters. So you've got rebellion and complaining, rebellion against tempting him, rebellion and coveting and lusting after things that he hadn't provided. All these events, in addition to the idolatry. Likewise, as if that's not enough, what they did, or their parents did, 38 years ago when they got to the edge of Canaan. Likewise, when the Lord sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up, possess the land which I've given you. Remember, Kadesh Barnea is like the southernmost city on the border going into Canaan. So when you see that, think south, all right? So you're at the southern border, and God's saying, go up. And they didn't. Ye rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God. Ye believed him not, nor hearkened unto his voice. You didn't believe that he was going to deliver you. And this is primarily their parents who are responsible. These were not the military generation then. Nor hearkened unto his voice. But you have been rebellious against the Lord from the day that I knew you. Right? That's even before we started this trip. Right? As long as Moses has been interacting with you, y'all have been rebellious. And so the message of all that is remember that this was not for your righteousness that you're being brought in, but it was for the wickedness of another people and for a covenant God made with someone else. All right. So carry that forward to the New Testament. You think about the great last day and the judgment day, right? If you're going to stand before God and you're going to stand before him righteous, is it your righteousness? No, it was a covenant he made with his son. And his righteousness has been put upon you. And all of his enemies for whom the son did not die, they will be put out for their wickedness. Right? You will inherit a land that is sin-free, no curse. You won't have any curse, but it's not because of your own righteousness. It's because of the righteousness of someone else with whom God made a covenant. In this case, it was with someone who would keep the covenants. Right? None of the others, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, when God was giving them instructions, each of them disobeyed at some point. I mean, Abraham, he got tired of waiting for the promised son. He decided he was, listen to his wife's suggestion and would have, relations with a handmaiden. Right? It was so. That's your parallel to the New Testament. All right. So, verse 25, we're going back to, I fell down before the Lord 40 days and 40 nights, as I fell down at the first, because the Lord had said he would destroy you. So he's going to tell them, this is what I was saying to the Lord as I was interceding on your behalf all those 38 years ago. I prayed therefore unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, destroy not thy people. Right? Moses had said, he had said, Moses, your people. Destroy not thy people and thine inheritance, which thou hast redeemed through thy greatness, which thou hast brought forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand. These are your people. You've redeemed them. You brought them out with greatness. Remember thy servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? The ones that he made that covenant with. Remember them. Look not unto the stubbornness of this people, nor to their wickedness, nor to their sins, lest the land which thou brought us out say, so what's the land that they brought them out? Egypt. Lest the Egyptians say, because the Lord was not able to bring them into the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he hath brought them out to slay them in the wilderness. All right? He said, for your name's sake, so that your enemies can't even reproach your name of saying that you weren't able to do something. You said you were going to bring them in, and so to follow through on what you said, so even your enemies have to admit, yeah, he did. So the doctrines that are taught today that Jesus isn't able to save all of his people would be flying in the face of this. That would be allowing the enemies of him to say, yeah, the Lord wasn't able to. He wanted to. He's tried. He's wringing his hands. Like, that's a very weak image of Jesus. He's not. He is able to. There's a land that he promised them, and he's going to give it to them. It's not a love that turned to hatred, right? Because he had hated them. God had declared that he loved this people out of all people, and so he was going to do them good for his name's sake, and so he's going to follow through with that. So even his love can't be disparaged. And so this is, small scale, but you learn in the New Testament about the bigger scale about the love that God put upon his people before the world even began, and how he is able to deliver them out of bondage to sin and slavery, and safely bring them all. How many got left behind in Egypt? None. How many of the Egyptian army survived the encounter with the Lord at the Red Sea? Not even one. The Lord is able to bring his people out and is able to adequately address his enemies. It's a sovereign God. Yet they are thy people and thine inheritance, which thou broughtest out by thy mighty power and by thy stretched out arm. All right? So this is someone that God, you have chosen to value, continue to remember your covenant that you made. And so you've got that. And you could see that modeled in Christ's role as the intercessor, right? It's remembering the covenant that he made with Christ and how I've paid for that. That sin has been paid for. They've been put away. They are mine. All the other fathers are Jesus's. All the Jesus's are the fathers, right? And you've got that. If it were just up to our righteousness, we should be destroyed, right? But it's not, gratefully. So, Deuteronomy 9. Anybody have any questions?